And here we are, right here on the third episode of the Right Here podcast with your host, Sam Recco, and his guest host, Tyler Shankles. Our guest today is a good friend of mine and a very good coach by the name of Jordon Bakley. He's a JUCO All-American for Harper College, right?
Right.
And a D1 starter for SIUE, is it Southern Illinois of Edwardsville, right?
Yep.
That's right. Yep.
And now Jordan is currently the head coach at Lincoln, the same school that I am coaching at. And he's a good friend of mine, a very good coach, a very good mentor to the kids, a huge Packers fan. He loves Rodgers, and he's a very good person. So I'm going to start off by asking this question, Jordan. And I think, this is why I find you so inspiring and motivational, is at the age of 30 years old, and Coach Bakley hasn't ever had a sip of alcohol or drugs in his life. And, I just find that so awesome. And my first question for you is like, basically what put you in that mindset of like just saying, listen, I'm going to focus on things outside of the party phase?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty early on. I'd say, 14 or 15, right about that ripe age when people start, experimenting with stuff. We had a really good core group of guys in high school, and we were all athletes. We're all kind of, same mindset in terms of wanting to get into college, wanting to do something with our lives, wanting to get out of the small town that we were in eventually. We just kind of made a pact. We were like, we're not going to do any of this stuff until we're of legal drinking age. And I'd say probably out of the 8 or 9 guys that made that pact, probably 4 or 5 of us stuck it throughout high school, and then we all kind of went our separate ways. And obviously, and Sam, it's as a college athlete, you're doing anything that you can within means to set yourself above the competition. And that's kind of where my mindset, even when I did turn 21, that was my first year transition from a JUCO program to a Division I program. So I thought I had to prove myself here. And, it's just a tangible, easy way to separate yourself from, 90% of the population.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I nothing really jumped out at me in the years that I've missed it. I got people that have experienced that. I don't really think their life's got much better from it. So I just kind of took it one step further and just decided to do it until I was done wrestling. And, faith is a pretty big part of my family's life. And, there's a few passages in the Bible that talk about drinking and talk about, some leaders and people in leadership roles and how they should conduct themselves in some of those sort of situations. I just took that to heart and just really felt convicted that, this is something that, I just want to stick with. It was just something that was never a part of my life. So.
Yeah, and I really think hearing that for the first time, I just thought like at the age of 30 and like not partaking in that stuff is just awesome. But I was planning on like having that focus being the first part of the podcast, and I'm very happy it was. So now I like just kind of want you to like share like your backstory, how you came to love wrestling and how you came to coach and so on and so forth, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got a late start. I didn't start wrestling until I was in 7th grade. And you kind of mentioned the fact that I'm a Packers fan. It all really started through the Packers. I made a bet with my dad. Nobody in my family ever wrestled. They didn't really have it when they were growing up. They were all into kind of boxing, stuff of that nature. But it must have been, I'm trying to think back, it must have been 2002 or 2003. Maybe it was a little before, maybe it was 2001, but the Packers had a home game against the Atlanta Falcons. Mike Vick in his heyday.
Oh yeah.
I bet against him. I said
Human cheat code.
I said if the Packers lose, then I'll try out this crazy sport.
Really?
And
That was how
yeah,
you
they ended up getting their butts kicked. So I stuck with it, and I don't know. I didn't have much success. I didn't even think I cracked the 7th grade lineup my first year, but just loved it. And then 8th grade had a little glimpse of success, and going into high school, the program at our high school had only been there for 3 or 4 years, so it was a relatively new program, and just being able to set some of those early milestones, they're just blown out of the water now, but just felt like, okay, this is my thing. Everybody seemed to have their thing, going into high school, and this is what I was going to do. I was a 3-sport athlete, did football, wrestling, and track, so I was never above average in any of those other sports, but wrestling was really, okay, I can do this. I can, really stand out there, and didn't really do too hot. My senior year was a bit of a letdown. In Illinois, we had 2 divisions, and top 3 kind of advanced to the state tournament. And I ended up falling short. Got 4th place in that sectional tournament. It was a good year. It was a great, Jordan Blanton was in that weight class. Sterling Heacox, who wrestled at Brown. David Dwyer, who was a Nebraska All-American. Guys that I knew were good, but still that was the way that the weight that I was at, and I just thought maybe I could come, because some of those guys were just freshmen and sophomores. They're just unbelievable even back then. So going out of high school, really the only option was Harper College, a junior college about 30 minutes up the road from me. And I get there, walk into that room, and there's state champs and 4-time qualifiers, 4-time placers, guys from Indiana, guys, just way out of my comfort zone. One of my mentors at the time, still is a mentor, Mike Kelly rather. He's a USA grappling world medalist. He's the real deal if you ever look him up. And he kind of took me aside one of the early practices and just encouraged me just to work as hard as I possibly could. Don't worry about any of the wrestling. You just try to win every race. Be the first one in the weight room. Just kind of those effort mentality things, and again, those tangible things that I can change. I'm never going to be able to change the fact that this guy's been wrestling since 6 years old, and does all these moves. But you can do the work, effort, attitude sort of mentality, and that's just what I took. And I made the varsity lineup freshman year, was a national qualifier. And that second year, that's really when things started to blossom and really saw a ton of success. We had just an absolute hammer of a room. We won the nationals as a team that year.
Oh, really?
And I ended up, it was an unbelievable year. So at that national tournament, I never wrestled good the first match ever, but I was cutting a decent amount of weight that first day of the national tournament, and I ended up going out there and getting beat pretty bad. It was like a 7-2, 7-3. I couldn't get up to
First round?
First round, yeah. So just devastating. I went up to the stands, and my dad, bless his heart, doesn't, he knew a little bit about wrestling, but at the time I was trying to debate whether I would continue wrestling in college and all this other stuff, and I felt like, man, I just threw all this away. I was just so disappointed in myself, and I just had a really good conversation with him, and at the end of it, we just kind of decided, let's just go out there and have fun. So I had 7 matches left to go in that tournament, pinned 6 of the 7 guys.
Wow.
To end up getting third. Yeah, it was just fun, and it was, I just didn't feel any pressure, and I'd never wrestled that way before in my life. And it just opened so many doors for me, because after you place a decent tournament like that, then some bigger colleges are interested if you're, if you had decent grades, and a few colleges opened up. Northern Illinois, which was kind of I always wanted to go there my whole life growing up. They were kind of in our backyard. We would always go to duels and football games. They just really did not have a spot for me. They had like a returning national qualifier and then a stud freshman that came in. So unless I was willing to lose a bunch of weight or bump up, it just was unfortunate. And the next call was SIUE, and school I had never heard of, and so fell in love with the campus, kind of fell in love with the town. And,
Your audio is slowly starting to.
Yeah, I think we're losing you a little bit.
Best decision I ever made. And is it lagging a little bit?
Yeah.
There you go. You're good now.
A little bit.
Okay. So anyway, I forget what I was saying, but yeah, had a great experience here. Met a lot of people that I'm still close with. Met my wife down here. It's just an opportunity that I'm just so glad I took, and really it all happened because of that one national tournament. Just that 48 hours of wrestling really opened a ton of doors.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And I want to go back on the very first thing, like I heard from you during that story, was how your coach pulled you aside at Harper and like basically said, listen, it's just be the first person there lifting, the first person that finishes the runs, the first person to practice, just because that mindset just goes a long way. Just effort. Pure effort just goes a long way. And, not even in just wrestling, but in like life in general.
Life in general, outworking people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, people just kind of underestimate that and don't understand how, and even the attitude thing, I just remember frequently, and Sam, with even some of our guys, it's like, you tell them a workout, you tell them, we're running 3 or 4 miles today, and there's guys that just have that attitude. We could have told them we're doing 10 push-ups and leaving, and they'd still find something to complain about, versus the complete opposite, the 180 guys that are just like, let's go, let's do it, let's just try our best. It's just such an attitude thing. And like you said, it's something that sticks with you your whole life. You're always going to be able to find stuff to complain about.
Yeah, right.
That's the easy thing to do.
I said the complaining is the easy way out.
Yeah.
Out.
So and I just try to remember that, and as a coach of young men that just where they're at mentally isn't where they're always going to be mentally. And I feel like when they see a role model or see okay, I can do this, I can make this work. I just got to do these tangible steps. I think it's a lot easier for them to visualize success, whatever that is for them.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on this. Like, honestly, I think me and you probably aren't the best wrestlers ever, but I think you and I are very hardworking people, coaches and wrestlers that could probably outwork a lot of people. And at the freaking end of the day, that is what matters, is just outworking people. And I just think that's awesome. It's an awesome mindset to just always be the first person there and the last person to leave. Yeah, Tyler?
Definitely. I was gonna ask. So, like, you were saying that your program when you were in high school was kind of new. So, who did you like look to like keep you going, or like who did you? Because I know, now we've got Flow Wrestling. You have all these different videos and sources. So, like, what were your inspirations or someone that you looked to keep you motivated and, learn technique from and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I already mentioned the guy, Jordon Bakley. He at the time was just the second coming in terms of the wrestling world, in terms of Illinois wrestling. I mean, and he is somebody who just kind of motivated me in terms of, this guy is from a small town, just got unbelievable prospects. I tried to go to every camp that he went to or every practice he went to. I was in a club called ISI Wrestling. Jerry Kelly, who, Oklahoma State wrestler. He was a head coach at McMurray for a while. Now he just owns the club. His daughter was an Olympian, Megan Kelly, I think. But anyway, just kind of being around other people who wrestling was their entire life. I was just an eye opener for me, and just, for me, even growing up, probably even halfway through high school, it was just like, just something we do in the winter, just something, just something to come hang out with your friends. And when you see those next level athletes, those guys that are just taking this super serious, and have all these prospects, it's like, man, how can I emulate what they're doing? And
it's like learn by osmosis, just be a sponge and just soak it all in. Yeah.
Now with Flow and with all the social media and stuff, like I feel like it's such a great opportunity to grab young fans, and you'll see people on the street with a wrestling hat or with a Rudis hat or something. Like you never would have saw stuff like that 5-10 years ago.
That was going to be another question I had for you, was talking about like how much the community there affects your program. Do you get the support that you want, and that kind of thing?
We had, like I said, our kind of, group of friends, we had a pretty large wrestling team for how young it was. And like I said, everybody just kind of, if they didn't make the basketball team, they just jumped down and wrestled. So we had a really good group of guys, throughout all of high school that just kind of stuck together. And, everybody had their sport, but, we were all kind of in it together. So it was just, like I said, it was kind of, I felt like it was my opportunity. This is where I'm supposed to shine. This is not winning any 100-meter dashes. This is where I'm going to be, in my kind of zone here. And had a lot of school pride and a lot of, just wanted to do well for the school. And
that's awesome, though, because, it can be like, I'm from Alabama, so football, baseball, everything, like that's king. So when it's like wrestling's like one of these lower tier sports in the eyes of the community, it can get hard to, get that kind of support. But that's good that you can be like a new program.
Wrestling is kind of seen as a different sport in like most towns. It's like just seen as lesser, but it is what it is. So I just wanted to touch base on like something I just heard you say earlier about basically always surrounding yourself with people that want the same goal as you. And I heard you say that, and I am always telling our team that is always surround yourself with people that want the same goals in life. And really, it is a great quote, and I just love it. And it's just like speaks volumes.
Oh yeah. If you hang around dirt, you get dirty. That's what my grandma always told me.
That's the truth.
If you hang around dirt, you get dirty. I'm a fan of that.
Still tells me that from some.
So my next question was going to be, we have a pandemic going on, but how has that impacted recruiting and everything for you? Like the whole like dead period and everything. Yeah. How is the pandemic like changed things up for you?
This is a question for the both of us.
Yeah. Well, NAI has a unique kind of perspective in terms of like dead period, and they are a little less restrictive, probably a little more than less, but they don't have as many rules in terms of like the dead period when you can't be an athlete. So we really had kind of free reign in terms of business as usual. Sam and I we kind of headed up recruiting pretty early this year, so we didn't have a whole lot of on the men's side numbers that we had to reach. We were we probably had maybe a half a dozen guys that we were trying to close a deal on, or maybe get a couple more in this weight class. But really our focus right now is the juniors. So
Yeah.
usually, the juniors won't even, now is really the time when those guys, at least for us, would come in and start doing their visits. And, we've already started talking to some of those higher level athletes to try to get them on campus, get them through the process. But we started a women's program back in September. And really the pandemic has hurt our efforts there. The Illinois State tournament for the girls was unfortunately had to be canceled. That was like 30 minutes from our college, so we were going to host practices there, and it was just going to be a really, really big event for us that we were unfortunately not able to have. So, really, if there's been any kink in the chain for this whole pandemic, it would have been that we weren't able to do as much on the women's side, but we're in a much better place now, and I feel like
absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All of our guys that the grades and stuff, we were I was able to kind of really stay on top of the people, make sure they're doing their online classes, and that was a big hurdle that I didn't.
If you're ineligible.
Yeah, well, and that was some of them, and the school did a great job of just being very transparent, and they sent out laptops to students who either didn't have them or different situations. So I felt like
that's awesome.
They did an amazing job trying to just stay ahead of the curve with all this stuff, and at the same time respect the guidelines that are coming out, and just trying to cover all their bases with number one priority being the students on campus. Sure.
Tyler, you wrestled at the NAIA level, right?
I did. I wrestled at Cumberland in Tennessee.
Yes.
And I actually,
did you say Texas?
Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a kid on our team from Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We have a kid transferring from, you say Campbellsville?
Cumberland.
Oh, Cumberland. Okay. I always get those two mixed up. Yeah, we do have a guy from Tennessee. Trying to get two, actually.
They got some good wrestlers.
Hidden
gems, I like to call them down here in the South.
Well, Tennessee is just Tennessee and Kentucky have some powerhouse NAIA programs. Man, we went down there for a quad last fall. I was just blown away. It was at Lindsey
Wilson. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. I don't even think it was a quad. I think we got 5 matches, but I think 3 of the 5 matches were top 20 ranked teams.
Yep.
I mean, it just showed us pretty early, like, okay, this is where this is our goal.
We would have like a try, and it would be like them in Campbellsville, and it's like, oh man, like, this is like the worst.
One of the guys, I think he was. Which one's the Patriots? I think that was that Cumberland's?
That was University of the Cumberland, yeah.
Well, they had a guy. He won 3 matches at the Midlands this year. He went 3-2.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He did a great job. He just kind of ran through everybody at the NAI level, but yeah, he beat a couple of decent athletes.
I mean, the
Midlands.
Midlands is a pretty tough college tournament.
Oh
yeah.
D1 level.
Yeah, I was surprised. I think he was 2 matches away from place, and I think he lost his first one early on, so he had a bunch of wrestlebacks.
Wrestlebacks at Midlands are insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a lot of always top 20 ranked.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So next, I just want you, Jordan, to talk about your experience with coaching a state champ in the state finals, because obviously I haven't had that coaching high school for 3 years, and I would have loved that, like to coach a champ and like just experience that with them. So talk about that.
Yeah. So my second, I guess, right out of college. I got a head coaching job at Elgin High School, which is a pretty big school district in the Chicago suburbs. I think it had over 3,000 kids in the school, but the wrestling team was, down. They just did not have a lot of kids. So we didn't have a whole lot of success. We had a ton of kids on the team, a lot of first-year guys, but unfortunately, they they have a RIF process where they pretty much RIF all the first year teachers. And, you know, they told me I wasn't, they were like, if you just stick around until like June, we'll let you know. And I'm just like, man, I can't really wait that long. So, got a great job at a great school district right down the road, Burlington Central School District. And they actually started it off as a middle school head coaching position, which I wasn't super thrilled at. I just kind of had to swallow my pride and realize it was a job. You know, probably the funnest year coaching I ever had, that middle school year. We
Really?
didn't have a whole lot of success, but those kids are like sponges, you know, and there really was no talk back there. You were this expert, and they just listened to you blindly, and it was just so much fun. And my second year there was my first state champ experience. We had a heavyweight. We won a state finals by 1 point. It was 1-0. So he didn't do a whole lot of work, but he
just enough.
Yeah, just enough. And that was kind of the first tip of the iceberg for me. And then the next year I took over at the high school, and we had 2 state champs.
Oh, really? You had 2?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we had 2 the same year. It was quite an event. And I just remember trying my best. You know, I was pretty nervous. And then one of the guys at the state at that year, he was a returning state champ. So he wasn't really, he was pretty cool, calm and collective. You know, he had beaten the guy he had in the finals the previous week at sectionals. So he was pretty confident. He was more kind of trying to figure out how he was going to, you know, but I just remember looking at the guy, the other one who was the first time in the finals, pretty nervous, and it just kind of clicked that I just had to make this an atmosphere like, you know, like every other match, you know. And we were just goofing around down in the tunnel, and, you know, I don't even know what stupid games we were playing. We were doing like picture poses just to kind of loosen the air, and, you know, brought out, you know, this true kid, this true guy. And, you know, so he was all excited. Still didn't do anything in the whole match. I think it was 1-1 going into the overtime period. And you know, I'm a big thrower, you know, so both of these guys were pretty hard to coach, because one was 126 pounder and the other was a 145 pounder. So, you know, naturally they're not big throwers, but we did a whole heck of a lot in the room. And sure enough, in the guy's overtime match, he lat drops this kid to his back.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he lat dropped anybody the whole season, but I was pushing into him. He tried to lock up to see how he would do, and instinct just kicked in. So, you know, it was just such a great weekend. And, you know, like I said, I had never really experienced that level of success. You know, yeah. I didn't even make it to the state tournament in my high school career, and, you know, I was kind of a
national tournament, which
yeah.
is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a great experience, and, you know, I can't really compare it to anything else. You know, just how excited they were, how excited their parents were, and, you know, it's just a culmination of a lot of good things.
So my biggest question of the night for you, and you know, then I'll let Tyler take over and like ask his questions for you. But my biggest question for you, Coach Jordon, is this. So what is the biggest difference from coaching high school to now coaching college?
It's a good question. I think you know, I would say having to check in more, you know, having to really take the role of a you know, a parent or kind of counselor. I mean, I've had some conversations over the last 2 or 3 years that, you know, I just never expected to have with somebody that wasn't family, you know. And these guys are they're super, you know, tough on the outside, and they're just, you know, soft candy shells on the inside. And, you know, a lot of their success is their ability to hold all that in, and to, you know, just be the tough guy. And you know, but they're still 18, 19-year-old young men that don't have any idea what the heck's going on, you know, and they're just flying at the seat of their pants like we were when we were young. And
Yeah.
I've just always had a heart for people like that. And I feel like it's just such a good opportunity for you to just have some sort of a footprint in their life. I've over since I've been coaching college, there's been guys that have lasted the whole time. There's been guys that have lasted 2 months, and everything in between. And early on, I just had decided to have the attitude of it's not personal. If they got to leave the school, or if they've got to do something else, or if they can't make it to morning practice, or if they can't, like all of these, factors that happen with life, it's not personal, and it's really just, these kids trying to figure it out. And I feel like it's my job to do whatever I can to help, whatever that is, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's tough love. Sometimes that's, just
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people don't realize how hard it truly is being a student athlete in college, like obviously athletics being wrestling.
Yeah.
And it's just so tough, like with balancing school, balancing your schedule, balancing practices, and like a girlfriend, or like
Well,
it's
like
just,
some of them,
so
some of them have
much.
jobs too. Like
yeah.
jobs. Like my roommate, we wrestled at Cumberland. It was like get up in the morning, go to your lift, morning practice, and then you go to class. Then you go get your afternoon lift or practice in, and then you go to work. And then after that, you gotta find time to study in there sometimes.
Study tables.
It's like there's so many things in there.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a hard balancing act for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah. And it's just a microcosm of life. A lot of these people are, this is, and I always tell them, like, this is the 4 to 5 years that you have to like figure it out. There's not too many opportunities when you can kind of take a pause in life and focus on your personal development, focus on your professional development, focus on you growing as an individual, because, usually those transitions in real life they don't skip a beat. They don't, write you a pass for being late. And it's such an unbelievable learning opportunity. And it's like the 4 or 5 years of enlightenment, and it's your time to figure it out and make mistakes, but seek wise counsel and understand that we were all there before. We're all in those shoes.
That's why I just love wrestling so much. Is it teaches so many lessons, and this has so many values, not only in the sport but in life in general. And like it just leads you down the road and guides you. And I'm obviously biased, but I think wrestling is obviously the best sport, and basically because of it, it just teaches you so many lessons in life.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Same here. All right, well, I guess we can get into my questions here now.
Absolutely.
And mine are a little bit more, not wrestling centered, per se. So we'll get into just a little bit more about you, I guess. Number one, favorite athlete across any sport, doesn't matter. Obviously, we know it's Aaron Rodgers.
I
say
know.
the Packers.
Are we talking current athletes or what are we past athletes?
It doesn't matter. You can pick anyone you want.
I'll probably say Brett Favre.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he got me loving he was the reason I really liked football. He might be too young for you guys, but man, watching him play.
I remember some Favre, mostly with the Vikings, but
I don't have the jerseys here, but the only other 2 jerseys that I own that aren't Packers are a Favre
on the Vikings,
New York Jets, and Favre on the Vikings. Yeah,
I forgot that Favre. Jet. I forgot.
He
about
probably. That. I don't like if Aaron Rodgers moved to another team. I don't think I would get. Brett Favre made me want to root for somebody besides the Packers.
Yeah,
and I will never ever forget this. The Monday night game when his father died, the week prior, and he comes into Oakland versus my Raiders,
sure,
and absolutely torches them.
5
That's a smaller
touchdowns.
guy.
5 touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
In Oakland.
Well, that was
black hole.
yeah. Well, back in 2010, the Packers were selling some shares. So they're a private or they're a public-owned company. So my dad bought me 1/10 of one share, and it is like my biggest accomplishment. Owning a share of the Green Bay, and it says on there. I wish I have in my office. But it says like, because it's not transferable for any value, any cash value, means nothing basically. But you own one, it is probably, and you do get some perks. Like you get every year they give you like this secret password and code to access this team store. It's like a hidden team store that only shareholders can get to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have like a shareholder hat.
That's like Twitter handle, or like where they like put that in like your bio. Like I own 1/10
of one share.
So then, at the end of the day, who do you think is the better quarterback, Favre or Rodgers?
I think Rodgers got to be the better quarterback, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. And I think Rodgers has a couple more. I'd love to see Rodgers get to Super Bowl one more time.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got. I think he's got about 4 or 5 years left, and
Yeah.
we'll see though. We'll see.
That's what.
Never know.
All right, my next one. Favorite sports movie to watch?
Sports movie. I don't watch a lot of sports movies. I'm gonna have to think about that. I don't even think I've ever watched Vision Quest. I always get like halfway.
You've never
through it.
seen Vision Quest?
I've seen parts of it, but it's just so cliche. Just like man,
You're gonna make the weight.
corny movie. So I mean, yeah, I can totally agree with that.
That's awesome.
Trying to think. Air Bud's a good movie.
Solid choice. Can't go wrong. Or any of the sequels, Air Buddies.
I don't know.
Air
I'll
Bud.
probably do Caddyshack.
Oh, nice. Bill Murray with the baby Ruth in the pool.
Yeah, I do like. I do enjoy golfing. I enjoy watching it. That's kind of a classic movie for me.
All right, my last one would be, what qualities do you look for in a recruit when you're narrowing down?
Good question, Tyler.
Yeah, it is a good question. I've definitely changed my recruiting style, since being a college coach. First year, definitely it was hammers or bust. It was guys that had accolades, guys that, I just think back to like the filter searches that I used to do for recruits, and it was just such a waste, of time. So many guys I probably missed out with because of the vanity, but really the big thing for me, and the more I'm relying on, is just talking with their high school coach, and just being like, hey, what's your opinion on this guy? And high school coaches, bless their heart, are, especially if it's a student that's not under their wing anymore, like they'll be pretty honest. They'll be like, this kid was an absolute heartache, head case, this guy, just had no work ethic, pure, super talented guy. And those ones kind of end up being a train wreck in the room for us. And
Yeah.
It's really not worth it. And a lot of times they just don't pan out anyway because they're so self-absorbed. But on the flip side, I take all those guys that show up in August and, no matter what attitude they have, I just kind of think of it as, all right, I've got a year to put my mark, to try to better their lives, to try to reach these guys. And, we just take them under our wing and their family until they decide otherwise. That's how we treat them. And, I always try to, like I said, always end on a good note, whether it's a guy who's coming up to you telling you he's never going to wrestle again, or, just positive, because it's not about wrestling. It's just about, like I said, being somebody, having an opportunity to influence somebody. And
Yes.
Yep.
it's just like, I feel like I'd have the same perspective if I was, still a middle school teacher, or middle school coach.
Yeah.
It's just like, you've got an opportunity to affect somebody. You know, that window is so short before, you know, they're on to the next phase of their life. And,
Yeah, those are some
just one
wise words, Jordan. Because actually, last week, me and Tyler and Coach Cook were talking about wrestling just being a like short phase of life, and like just just not solely focusing like my life and goals on just wrestling, and like obviously it is so much more, like with not only being a tough wrestler on the mat, but being a good person off the mat. And I honestly think that's why I love coaching so much, is to just make good people.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. Just try to have an influence and do what you can.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. So what inspires you to teach the younger kids, like not only wrestling or being a solid person?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. There's been so many times that I've, over the last 10 years that I've tried to, think about something different, whether it be, we have a little bit of a construction background with some real estate and stuff. So, I always thought, man, is it time to just try to focus on that full time or this full time? And, I don't know what it is. I just get drawn back to, kind of the trade that I was brought up with in college, and just seeing how many, and now some of those fruits are, like some of those middle school kids that I started teaching like 6 years ago, like they're in college now, and it's just crazy to think about all the lives you can affect by just affecting one, by just and it kind of goes back to the faith aspect of it too. And I've worked in all secular schools, so you can't really go in there with a Bible and start reading Matthew 1, but you can subtly influence them just through your character and, just how you treat people, and I have my bad days, I have my frustration days too, but, the best part about, being a teacher or being a coach is that, you're not necessarily going to be judged by that bad day. You're going to be, you got, with teaching, you had like 180 days with these kids. With coaching, you probably have close to 90 or whatever, days that you're influencing them, and always walking around like you've got a microscope on you, and that somebody's watching you, somebody's caring about how you react to that situation, somebody's wanting to see how, are you going to let that person talk, how are you going to react to that, and walking around like there's a microscope on you just kind of gives you a sense of, I want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing, whether it's, the most popular decision, whether it's the most, whether it's the decision that's going to get me farther along in my personal goals. That's really always been a huge driving force in life. And, like you can really just start to see the trickle down effects of that walk, and some of the students that you've had, or some of the conversations that you have a few years down the road with those students, that did have an effect on them, or that, they do remember.
Feels
that.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does. And, I want to share a quick story, and, I don't know this Bible verse off the top of my head, but back in the fall, probably like my second month here in Lincoln. And first I'll say this, I don't take it very well if like somebody's talking smack to me, just because I like always want to mouth back to them and like talk smack back. So it is hard to like stay silent. So a kid on our Lincoln team was talking smack to me, and I said some stuff back, just like being a tough coach. And then Jordan pulls me aside and like says something about a fool speaking out. But it was a great Bible verse, and I don't know off the top of my head.
It was like even a fool seems wise when he shuts his mouth.
Yeah. So like now I have been a bit more, silent if like
reserved.
A wrestler talks back to us, because like obviously me growing up and like obviously I was raised in a tough household.
Yeah, sure.
And like talking smack back to bullies or like talking smack back to people. So it's hard like to just take it. So now
Yeah, oh yeah.
I have just kind of took it in and like just kind of led by a different example now. So
Yeah.
I thank you for showing me that.
One that I don't know, you might know it. I was a minor in psychology for some crazy reason in college. I thought, man, maybe I'll just be a psychologist. That sounds like a great path. So I just remember having to take all these psychology courses, and when we got to like the practicum where you were observing, field work, 90% of it was just sitting and observing situations, and it was a educational side of things, but as we were supposed to sit in the classroom and go into a behavioral room or whatever, and this kid would be cussing out his teacher, and it just like crazy situations, high stress situations. And I just remember thinking, first off, this lady is a saint, but second off, she is just handling it with such poise and calmness, and it diffuses the situation, and that's usually where I come with, that fool's mentality. In my mind, it's like these guys in the heat of the moment are going to say, do, and think things that,
Absolutely.
at a calm situation when we're one-on-one in my office, they're going to be shooting to a completely different tone. And I just got to remember that that's those true kids. That's who they really are. They're not this fool, this facade that they're portraying in front of their buddies. Deep down inside, they're a solid kid, a solid guy, and they just need to know how to react when something doesn't go their way, or like it's just a learning curve for me. And it just kind of, I always just kind of point to myself like, man, maybe I got to have a little more one-on-one with this guy, just to have him be a little more confident in his own skin that he doesn't have to act. And
I honestly think really those meetings at the end of the season were very helpful and structured well, and it helped us and the kids a lot.
Yeah, I love individual meetings. I wish I had time to do more of them, but it just really, clears the air.
Yeah.
Everybody has their, when you think about something or you think about a problem, it's like in your mind you construed it 1,000 different ways, and 90% of those times when you construed it, it's not the truth. It's not the reality of the situation, and clearing the air is such a powerful tool, and knowing when to do that, knowing when it's, I feel like that's half the coaching job, is knowing, do I address that issue now, or do I let this guy sit on it and come back to it later? Is it something where I let, it's just kind of a fun game, of psychological warfare. We're just trying to, I'm just trying to get the best 10 athletes on the field in March, and
Seriously.
It's such a fun roller coaster.
So my next segment is a speed round of questions.
All right.
Before that, I am going to share something, and I did tell the team this during a practice. I am very thankful, and just growing up in middle school and high school and college as well, I was always picked on for my stutter and my stammer, and I haven't had you or another coach at Lincoln or a wrestler on our Lincoln team say a single thing about my stutter, and I just think that is awesome. Just from like growing up for about 22 years, man, people always said something to me, and it just feels good to like feel welcomed in a program to where people see me for who I am and like just not my stutter.
Sure.
And I thank you for that. Because
didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, because I mean, I have just always lived in like fear of like speaking to people,
Yeah,
and it,
sure.
like just always.
Now
like,
you're leading the podcast. Look at you.
yeah, right. It's crazy.
The growth, you can just see it.
Yeah.
I think he's ready for this. He's ready for the questions. He's got the hat on backwards. He's ready.
I'm ready. I'm pumped.
All right.
I got my little beard comb. Let me straighten things out. My wife got this for my birthday, which I found out she leaked the date.
Oh yeah, she did.
This was one of my favorite early Father's Day gifts. I don't know if you can. Can you guys read that? Is that?
It's a father figure. That's awesome.
That's my favorite gift so far.
Yeah, that's a great coffee cup, and the both of us like to hammer our coffee at
Yes,
the
you do.
tournaments.
Oh my
All
God.
right, are you ready for the speed round?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, favorite current wrestler?
Jordan Burroughs.
Same. And we just talked about this last
Like
week.
it's Burroughs. Easy.
Yep, that's me.
Even more so that Dake talks all that crap.
Oh man,
Oh,
dude,
man.
that like segment of like Dake like seriously talking smack to him just like made me I just hope
Best wrestler of all time. Yeah.
Yeah, I am definitely on team Jordan Burroughs. Your favorite coach in
Favorite coach.
any single sport. So like, really, who do you think is like okay, I will say it again. Who do you think is the best coach of all time? But then again, who's your favorite coach?
Oh boy. It's hard to go against Gable, especially now that some of those things are coming out, like his way of thinking, way of doing things. Even the Brands guy, I'll probably say Terry Brands in terms of
man.
my favorite coach to think about or watch or read about. Just a winner's mindset. I wish there was more out about Hale, but he's so secretive and to himself. You don't really know what's going on, but maybe in 20 years he'll come out with a documentary.
Yeah, honestly, I love watching Terry. On
The
the
Terry
side.
film.
Dude,
That was awesome.
He's like always pacing in his chair or just going back and forth. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know why I wasn't ready for that one.
Tom like pulling him down from the fence when he's trying to like hop after he loses. He's like, I'm not letting you go.
That flow movie thing.
That was
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Tom said if like he didn't grab him,
he was gone to the mountain.
I was like, wait, what?
That was crazy.
Forever? He was a mountain man? All right, your go-to food.
Go-to food, probably cheese. Cheese is my go-to. Your nemesis, but being from well, not from Wisconsin, but I spent a lot of time up there. That's like they pretty much serve that with every meal.
Really?
Big cheese guy.
Yeah, I am not a big fan of cheese, but your favorite film of all time.
Favorite film. Always for the longest time, I said Secondhand Lions. You ever seen that movie?
That's a good one with Robert Duvall, and then is it Michael Caine, the guy from
I think it is
Dark Knight movies? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was his younger days. I do enjoy a lot of different movies. I've been getting a lot more into TV shows and series, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Secondhand Lions.
All right. So my next question is your favorite TV show. Is it Ozark? Because everybody knows how that is.
Ozark is wild.
So good.
If I were to take one of the things I always used to love on the old iPods was like you could look back on your history and it shows you like this is how many times you've listened to this song.
Yeah.
So I always thought okay, even though I don't tell people that's my favorite, it's clearly my favorite because I've listened to it twice as much. So if I did that same idea with TV shows, far and wide, it would be The Office. I probably have watched that series probably over a dozen times. They had
Really?
probably getting
You,
close
like,
to 2
whole
dozen.
way
Oh
through.
yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
good. So good.
My favorite episode is the fire one. Makes the fire.
Twilight lights the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, there's just so many good episodes, and it's such well written. It's hard to believe that it's been like 10 years since the original.
Yeah, right. All right, next question. Your favorite band or artist?
Favorite band or artist? Man, it's tough. I think the last one I saw in concert was either James Taylor or
Ooh, I love
Josh Turner.
Yeah.
Josh Turner's got this bone-shaking baritone of a voice that
Deep.
That'd be good. That'd be a good
hard to go against. I don't know. I just love, like I just love all type. I'll just put, there'll be weeks or months when like Demi Lovato's my favorite, and then it's just crazy, and then I'll get into a Rascal Flatts kick or, listen to a song that I don't know. I just love listening to new music and but if I was trapped on an island and could only pick one artist's whole thing, it'd probably be
Wilson.
Josh.
Josh Turner? Yeah. Oh, Tyler, here's a fun fact for you, is that Jordan saw Skillet live.
Oh,
I did.
Nice.
I saw him at a Christian concert in middle school. Yeah, they blew me away. I don't know if they played before or after Lecrae. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I know.
He's pretty big.
He's good
on the Christian music front, but Skillet just blew my head. I think my dad gave me like $30. It was supposed to be for dinner. I bought their CD. I bought like one of their
Get the
hats.
shirt. Get everything.
Yeah, I had to. I don't even know who fed me that night, but I don't miss many. I don't miss many meals, so I'm sure somebody was able to take care of me.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a big fan of Skillet. All right, next question. Favorite current athlete? And I hope you say who I think.
Yeah, it's hard to vote against LeBron. I mean, he is so. Last year, I think I did have a tear in my eye for Tiger Woods when he won the Masters last year.
That was awesome.
I mean, he is just
whole thing.
Both of those, the pinnacles of their sport are, I just love watching them do their thing. I don't know, I haven't heard much about this, Orlando thing, if they're actually going to finish the season out or not with the NBA.
Yeah, it's like a weird play-in type thing for something.
Well, I thought they were going to start baseball, and then I just read something that
I thought on the
they keep sending proposals, and then one group will send another proposal back, and that other group will reject it, and it's like I just miss baseball at this point.
Yeah, just something
I know.
I mean, they're playing.
These guys play it without fans or just something.
Yeah.
I think they're playing in Japan and China.
Oh yeah, you can bet on Korean baseball right now because I've seen it.
I'd be very good at that.
they're filling their stands with little stuffed animals.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
That's hilarious. All right, next question.
Okay.
Your favorite book of all time, other than the Bible?
Favorite book.
There is a lot in our.
Oh man, that's what I had in my library. My library is upstairs. I'm a big Ray Bradbury fan. I don't know if you ever heard of Ray Bradbury.
Good.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, that was one of his. The Martian was probably one of my. Gosh, it's tough. Like right now, I've got pretty high intensity ADHD, so I've got 5 screens going right now, but that same mentality is how I read books. So I think I'm reading 5 books right now, and I just pluck away a little bit every day.
A segment at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, just some are goofy, some are serious, some are whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to say. I read this 1984 last week. That
George Orwell.
Blew my socks away. Cornwell, yeah.
Oh, you you read it, Tyler?
Oh yeah, I've read that. I've read Animal Farm.
Richard,
Orwell.
this is one I started the other day. The Illusions. Richard Bach, he was inspired by Bradbury. There's just a ton of, the books to me are like movies. Like there's just so many good ones.
Yeah, I love.
Yeah, I love reading. I got a nice big library I've got going. myself,
Yeah.
So.
Just such a good. I listen to a few books too. That's always a. But Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes series. When I just think of like if I was going to be shut on an island and this is all I was able to have,
That'd
probably have to be that. Those are somebody. I don't know if it was him or somebody was an absolute genius.
That'd be it.
All right, a couple more. Who's the best quarterback of all time?
Best quarterback of all time. You got to say Tom Brady. I don't know how you don't. I don't know how you just can't. The guy who seemingly has it all. I mean, he never ages and just gets better. And
He really doesn't.
It's that whole TB12 method, man. He's got it down to a science.
And now I am a Bucks fan. Like I don't know 3 players on the Bucks, but I'll be rooting. I'll be rooting for him this year because Tom Brady. Unless they play the Packers.
Yeah. My last question. Who is the best athlete on the Lincoln College team? And it is okay to say Coach Recco.
Best athlete.
Who was our best athlete overall?
I think a guy out of Peoria named DeSergion Keys. He is.
And he's built well.
He's a freak athlete, man. He's one of the strongest guys I've ever come in contact with. He can dunk.
Yes, he can.
Athletic. He's just
hard.
Whenever we play any other goofy sport, he's always the
just
best
that natural, athletic.
I mean, I'm pretty confident he could make our basketball team if he really wanted. Like just a super athlete, super charismatic. He like does haircuts. Like he can do it all. And he was one of those. Funny story about him. Like he was one of those kids early on that I didn't think was good enough to be on the team. So like my first month here, he contacted us, and he didn't go to state or nothing, had bad grades. I was like, no way, I don't want you on my team. And then like 3 months later in August, when I'm desperate to have anybody, he reaches back out and, now he's, he plays second highest at conference last year,
Nice.
Just annihilates kids. I mean,
he's just so strong.
Yeah. Just a good athlete. I don't even think he started wrestling until junior year, but he's just such a super athlete that he still has success.
Wow.
Yeah, tell Tyler and the viewers that story of that Jack guy walking off the mat and saying, what did he say? That is a strong mother effer or something. And like,
this guy
was twice the size as him.
Dang.
Yeah, it's hard to the pictures, if we had pictures of these two guys, it'd be a better story. But yeah, big dudes, and Serge could hang in there with anybody for sure.
So strong.
That's crazy.
And that's when he had a really hard time making 97. So that was one of the tournaments where he just didn't make weight. So he's 200 pounds, wrestling 285.
Oh, geez.
So he is still. But these guys are still like coming off the mat, like, holy cow, this guy was.
Especially you get a big guy who can move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did awesome on his feet, but then if they chose top, just kind of weird. Just hard to keep him off. But he did well in 97.
Yeah, well, we have a couple minutes left. So Tyler, you got anything left for him?
I was just gonna say thanks for being on, man. It's been great having you here, learning more about the program.
Sure, for sure.
And hey, you're welcome to come back whenever you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say we gotta get you some Lynx gear.
Oh, for sure.
We'll have Sam get your info, and we'll send you whatever you want. Send you one of these new cool hats.
Oh, heck yeah! I'm a big hat guy, so that will work out very well.
Wow. Cool,
All right,
yeah.
So the final thing, Jordan, just end like with a positive, inspiring message for the viewers. Just something nice, yeah. Just deep, heartfelt message. Share it.
Well, it's hard to, I just think in these times, and I know everybody's kind of going over things, and there's just so many politically charged events happening in the real world. I just think it's such an important thing to remember, just you don't always have to have an opinion, and I feel like if that's, sometimes, some people, people just put their foot in their mouth because they feel like they have to say something. When people who might have a much more legitimate right to vent about a certain topic, I just feel so blessed sometimes just to sit back and, just hear perspective, hear what somebody's going through, especially somebody who has just a completely different perspective than I do, or even beliefs or political background or whatever. It's just such a, the thing that makes everybody, in my opinion, so great is that everybody is different, that everybody has these different beliefs, everybody has these different convictions, and to sit here and think that yours is superior than somebody else's is just such an ignorant way of going about life. And it's such a toxic thing that just, like I said, it just doesn't really, flow too well in terms of just getting along with people and not feeling like you always have to have the last word, or make them feel like your opinion is important, I guess.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we talk a lot about kindness and just about trying to do the next right thing, and I don't know if that helped.
No, yeah, it was perfect.
That was great.
On our first episode, I actually shared with Tyler and the viewers how we have a chaplain come in from FCA and talk to our team every Wednesday, and his quotes just stick with me. And it's a great experience to kind of hear it from somebody new.
I hope to be half as wise as that guy by the time I'm his age. He's just...
And man, he knows every wrestler ever.
I know.
It is insane how many people he knows.
That's crazy.
He just that's the thing. He just loves loving people. He just loves pouring out his time and energy into furthering the kingdom. And yeah, he's a guy I look up to a lot, and I look forward to. He'll be doing the same thing this year for us. He'll be our chaplain and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he is a big, 90% of the time those little messages, I'm the one tearing up, or I'm the one thinking.
Yeah, I like.
He's
yeah.
He's something else. He's a big blessing for us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me on. I feel like this is a huge thing. I listened to the Coach Cook's podcast, last week with his, awesome stories and awesome things. Stories like that need to be shared and need to be talked about. Just positive news and positive people. So keep doing what you're doing. I'd love to keep contributing. Maybe we can do one of these before season starts or before our first competition or something.
Sounds good.
Definitely love to.
I will schedule in your name now.
You say already penciled in.
Nice.
Honestly, me and Tyler are booked until mid-October.
Yeah, I saw that.
We got some big names coming on here.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Yeah, so thank you for Coach Jordon Bakley on the Right Here podcast. It was a great hour and 15 minutes maybe or so. Man, time flies by on.
It really does.
But yeah, thank you, Jordon, for coming on and telling us your inspirational story, your coaching techniques, all your wise words. And next week is Hayden Hidley from North Carolina State and my old high school buddy, Kellen Devlin, who also wrestled at NC State. So it's a big week next week, and everybody should tune in.
Go Pack!
Right here.
I'll be tuning in for that one. He should have some good stories himself for sure.
And guess who his favorite band is? So I've heard, Metallica. So we
really,
yeah, that was. That's the.
I can see that. I can see that. Metalhead.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your night. Let me know if I can do anything for you. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Coach. Thanks.
See ya.